Well, let's discuss Lesson 2.1, Rational and Irrational Numbers. So if you haven't had a chance to define the vocabulary, here are three of the numbers three of the vocabulary words right here. What an irrational number, a rational number, and a real number are. So let's look at those definitions and see what they actually mean. Real numbers can include rational and irrational numbers, and as we've already learned, they include counting numbers and whole numbers and integers as well. Now, what is different about a rational number is that it can be written as a ratio. Now, normally when we think about a ratio, we think of it looking like a fraction. Okay, so it can be written as a fraction. Now, we can also write fractions as decimals, right? Terminating decimals, so 4/10ths or 40/100ths. Rational numbers are also repeating decimals, so 0.333333, that's a rational number. And then integers, so we've got the square root of 16. Well, 4 times 4 is 16, so the square root of 16 is 4, which can be written as 4 over 1. So as you see, every one of these can be written as a fraction. Now, that's the rational numbers. We also discussed irrational numbers. Now, irrational number cannot be written as a ratio of two integers. The reason is because it never ends and it never repeats. So the value of pi, we approximate it because it's 3.141592654, and it just keeps on going. It'll fill hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages, but the numbers just keep on going. I don't know if we've ever even found the end of it. So this means approximately equal to, or is an estimation. Also, the square root of 23, it just keeps on going. It never repeats and it never ends. So these are irrational numbers. Now, even though irrational numbers cannot be written as ratios, their values can be estimated. So a lot of times when we see pi in a problem, we just would multiply it by 3.14. So let's look at an example. What does this look like when we're actually doing this? Is 0.25 or 25/100ths, is it rational or irrational? Well, it's a decimal that we could write as a fraction, right? 25/100ths. So it's a decimal, and since it can be written as 25/100ths, it is a rational number. Okay, so I want you to pause the video for a minute and fill out these three blanks, and then I'll be back in just a second to discuss the answers with you. Okay, so can we rewrite this as a whole number or a fraction? No, it's a radical, isn't it? It's not a decimal and it's not a fraction. The square root of 12 is a radical. So can the square root of 12 be written as a ratio with an integer in the numerator and a non-zero integer in the denominator? Well, no, it cannot. So the square root of 12 is an irrational number. Okay, very good. Let's move on to example 2. In example 2, they ask us to estimate the value of the square root of 58. So we're trying to find two numbers that the square root of 58 will fit between. So when we write an inequality using we're going to write it using perfect square roots. So it falls between 7 times 7 and 8 times 8, between 49 and 64. Doesn't 58 fall between 49 and 64? Yes, it does. So the square root of 49 is 7, and the square root of 64 is 8. So we know that the square root of 58 is somewhere between 7 and 8. So which one is it closer to? Well, if we take this 58 and we subtract 49 from it, we get 9. And if we take 64, since it's larger, and we subtract 58 from it, we get 6. So notice it's closer to 64. So because 58 is closer to 64, the square root of 58 is between 7 and 8, but it's closer to 8. So pause the video for a moment and fill in each of these blanks, and then turn the video back on and we'll go over the answers together. Okay, so square root of 30. Which two perfect square roots does it fall between? Did you get square root of 25 and square root of 36? If you did, that is awesome. Good job, guys. We know that the square root of 25 is 5. The square root of 36 is 6. So square root of 30 is somewhere between 5 and 6. Is 30 closer to 5 or 6? Or closer to 25 or closer to 36? So 30 minus 25 is 5. 36 minus 30 is 6. So 30 is actually closer to 25, isn't it? So because 30 is closer to 25, the square root of 30 is between 5 and 6, but it's closer to 5. Very good job, guys. So let's put this in practice. Let's do a little guided practice together. I want you to pause the video and work these problems, and then turn it back on when you get those blanks completed, and we'll go over the answers together. Okay, so can this be written as a ratio? Is it rational? Okay, the ratio is 125 over 1,000. So yes, it can, so it's rational. Very good. Square root of 50, can it be written as a ratio? No, it cannot. So it is irrational. How about 4/9? Can it be written as a ratio? Well, yeah, it already is 4 over 9, isn't it? So it is rational. How about the square root of 81? Well, what is the square root of 81? Is there a number times itself that'll give you 81? Yes, 9. So we can write it as 9 over 1. So it is a rational number. Good job, guys. So let's move forward. Step-by-step practice. Okay, I want you to pause the video and then come back in a little bit and you can check your answers. Okay, let's take just a moment to check our answers. Write an inequality using perfect square roots. Well, we've got the square root of 95. It falls between the square root of 81 and the square root of 100, which is between 9 and 10. So is 95 closer to 81 or is it closer to 100? So we go 95 minus 81 equals 14, and 100 minus 95 is equal to 5. So because 5 is smaller than 14, 95 is closer to 100. So because 95 is closer to 100, the square root of 95 is between 9 and 10, but is closer to 10. Okay, time for us to do a little more practice. We've got problems 6 through 11, so I want you to take a little bit and I want you to estimate the value of each number. So I want you to pause the video and I want you to work each of these problems and then come back in a little bit and we'll go over the answers together. Okay, I want you to pause the video and I want you to check each of your answers to see if you messed up anywhere. And then if you did, discuss it with one of your neighbors to see what they got and what they were thinking. I bet, though, that this is pretty clear to you. You guys are awesome. Okay, now we have some step-by-step problem-solving practice. All right, so pause the video and I want you to read through the problem. It says to underline the key words. If you need to, if you don't have this printed out, just write down the few key words that are important, okay? So pause the video, work this out, and then come back in a moment. We'll discuss the problem. Okay, so compare your answers. Did you see that irrational numbers was really important? And the integer closest to the estimated value of the radical. So this is the work we've already been doing. So it goes between square root of 121 and 144. So that'd be between 11 and 12. Now we need to know which is it closer to. So we do the subtraction and find out it's closer to 11, isn't it? So to understand the problem, we need to underline the key words. To solve the problem, we need to do a little guess and check to find out where 128 fits between. So the answer is 11, is closest to 11. And I checked my answer by using an inverse operation. So we can do the opposite operation to go back and do the work backwards, in essence. Okay, it's time for you to work the skills, concepts, and problem solving. So when you get those completed, you need to turn them in. All right, good luck, guys.